What's a scary science fact that the public knows nothing about? If your dog swims in a lake after receiving a spot-on flea treatment, it absolutely decimates the invertebrate population. A large dog swimming in 8 Olympic swimming pools worth of water soon after treatment will leach enough neurotoxin to kill 50% of the lake's invertebrate population within 48 hours. I say after, I mean relatively soon after, within say a day, to have an effect quite this devastating. The leaching does reduce over the month, but it's still there, and the effect of multiple dogs still allows for a terrible buildup of chemicals. I only recently learned that when you get sunburned, the burn isn't because of skin cell damage. The UV radiation damages the DNA. Then the skin cells decide to commit suicide and fall off so that the damaged DNA doesn't produce cancer. I'll never be mad at my skin peeling again. This is not to say that you won't get skin cancer from sunburn because your skin peels. You absolutely will get skin cancer if you burn over and over. Source: I'm 35 with a dozen basal cell carcinomas and 1 squamous cell carcinoma removed from my body by way of minor surgery. Have been sunburnt more times than I can remember and peel like a leper after the bad ones. Brain aneurysms can be completely unpredictable and can happen at any time in your life, no matter how healthy you are. A kid who I went to high school with at the age of 16 just did not wake up one morning and his cause of death was a brain aneurysm. I lost my husband of 12 years, we were best friends for 20 years, to a sudden brain aneurysm. Last words to me were, "Hun, I feel dizzy," and bam, on the floor, dead. I did CPR for 20 minutes waiting for help to come. Doctor said it was instant. It sucked for me because it was so sudden, but I take solace in the fact he felt no pain. He hated hospitals and never spent a night in one in his 62 years of life. Most ironic thing was, and I live in Mexico, is that it was on the Day of the Dead. Hard for me at the time, but man, if I got to have a choice of what day to go, it would be something like that. We had a weird sense of humor. RIPAI. There are alternative ways some proteins can form tertiary structures. These different structures make the protein unable to function. These alternate protein structures are infectious and incurable as they are so stable. If you get them in your blood, they will slowly convert your own proteins when making contact. They are called prions. Heart muscle cells don't reproduce much in adults, roughly 1% per year. If you have an infarction or other stressor that kills those cells, then your heart won't be able to grow new cells to replace the dead ones. This is why patients with diseases like heart failure end up needing a heart transplant. Trying to get this process to happen is a major goal for many cardiac researchers. Edit. Thank you all for making this such an engaging and interesting discussion. I've been studying heart cells for 10 plus years now. Basic scientist, no clinical training, and it's so refreshing to read many diverse perspectives and on-point questions. During World War II, the Japanese would continuously experiment on the people they captured, like open a pregnant woman's stomach and see the baby, infect her with syphilis, and see the effects, etc. While the Nazis also did commit genocide and all that. Japan was never confronted about those war crimes. I live in the Philippines, a country who suffered terribly under Japanese occupation. Aside from the war, being taught through primary to high schools, almost every other family has grandparents who can vividly recall the brutality of the Japanese occupation. From hiding your babies in forests to trunks to dug up holes, because the babies get stabbed once heard crying, to rapes and comfort women, every other family would have a Japanese blood in them, and we know this is a reason, to bombings and mass shootings. Some elders would tell these tales on how they hid from this, to psychological traumas we still see until today, even. With some of my older relatives the PTSD still exhibits. The trauma runs deep. It's never forgotten here in the Philippines. The plague is still out there. The bubonic plague is endemic in many parts of the world, but cases are very rare, because we've got it pretty well handled. If there's a general breakdown in society like a nuclear war, supervolcano eruption or asteroid impact, it's out there waiting to come back. Only 2 diseases in all of human history have ever been eradicated in the wild. Smallpox and Rinderpest. And smallpox is still present in several labs around the world, and has even claimed a victim in that state. Rinderpest only affects cattle and there are still samples around. Disease-wise, everything else that ever existed is still around in some form, somewhere in the wild, and even those two are still present in labs. Another Carrington event. The original Carrington event was in 1859, which was basically an intense geomagnetic storm that disrupted/knocked out telegrams, because that's all the technology there was to disrupt back then. Nowadays we use electricity for virtually everything. If it hit now, the effect would be like an EMP, but globally, there'd be no functional technology that involved electrics. In essence, losing all electrics would in turn stop communications, then logistics, and then fundamental infrastructure like food distribution, healthcare and utilities, other than electricity. The vacuum decay death of the universe. The basic LE5 premise is that it is possible that at some point in the universe itself started collapsing into a more stable version of itself. And once this started, the collapse spreads outwards into all directions at the speed of light. Because it travels at the speed of light, there is no way to know it's coming. You could literally stop existing the next second. There was a person who made a post one time that got hugely popular. This person was a chemical worker of some kind and went into detail about some of the nearly totally unknown but insanely terrifying chemicals that exist. They ranged from terrifying to damn near apocalyptic. It was a super interesting read. I wouldn't know how to find it now, but maybe someone else would be able to. That post would really fit here. Edit. I checked on the links provided directly to me, and I don't think it's any of them, but I have found some great reading. I don't think it was a direct post, but a reply to a post. It blew up and got hugely popular though. The guy listed a bunch of stuff in order of seriousness and what to do/expect in case of spill or containment leak. I recall his most serious one being more or less, by the time you realize it's happened, you and everyone in the building around you are screwed. I learned about ton 618 the other day. My facts here may be mildly incorrect. Feel free to Google. It's a black hole about 10.3 billion light years away, but we can still detect the massive amount of light bending around it. It's so large, they had to make a new category of black hole for it called ultramassive black holes. It's believed to be the largest thing in the universe. Its diameter is 14 times the diameter of Neptune's orbit. So it could fit our entire solar system in it 14 times across, side to side. If the black hole replaced our sun, we would be deleted. If it replaced the black hole that is currently at the center of the Milky Way, within 120 years the Milky Way would be deleted. This black hole doesn't swallow planets, it swallows entire galaxies. The idea of this thing freaks me out. The human body temperature in developed countries is actually declining, and at the same time global warming is increasing the temperature thresholds for many fungus types. This is leading to a whole new medical issue of fungus infecting humans, and its main source of protection, body temperature, is no longer working. That body temperature is a large reason for the success of mammals all over the world. After the KT extinction, the sun was blocked, and cold-blooded species couldn't raise their body temperature to kill off infections in their bodies. There is ample evidence that after KT, that fungus spread all over the world in massive quantities, which leads many to believe this led to the ascendancy of mammals on Earth. We might be sitting on a ticking time bomb of mad cow disease, prion disease that was in tainted beef in the 90s. The most closely related prion disease, Kuru, has an average incubation period of several decades, like 30 years or so. So there's a theory that the people who died from mad cow disease in the 90s are actually only a very small fraction of the people who contracted it, technically called VCJD, if it's in humans, as they were just the people who the disease happened to progress very fast in. There may be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are going to start losing their sanity and dying as their brains rot from the inside in the next several years. There's also a pretty good chance this isn't true though, and nothing will happen. A lot of scientists believe the incubation period is 10 years or less, as we haven't really seen growing numbers of VCJD deaths yet. Since we have no way of finding out, the test for VCJD is just looking at someone's brain to see if it's all messed up. All we can really do is just wait and see if something happens and try to prevent further spread. The longer nothing happens, the more probable it is that there's no issue. But that's why blood donors from Europe/the UK were banned outright. If a bunch of people do have it and donated blood, things will be bad to say the least. Although they'll already be bad when the UK life expectancy drops a decade. Prions are terrifying. They are basically zombies at a protein level. They are misshapen in such a way that causes them to misshape other proteins. Normal methods of disinfection don't work. This makes researching them a very tricky matter, as while most cases involve eating infected meat, mishandling prion samples is all it takes. Tricky part is, there is no treatment either. Once they get in you, they are 100% fatal. It has been a while since I've studied them, so this picture may be incomplete, but I do know they are always fatal. Like and subscribe for more edit videos.